Hello everybody, John from the esports department here, going over the 4-game LPL LCK slate for tonight. This is a pretty good slate. There's value on this slate. I think there's different ways you can go, which is always basically my decider for whether or not I like a slate. Is there different ways you can go, or do you have to play the same kind of couple teams? We'll go through a couple different things today. I am going to start looking at more at who teams have played against since we're early in the season here. But we're starting to get at least a little bit of a track record. Let's start with the first matchup. BLG plus 165, 1-2 on the season, up against Rare Atom, minus 235, 1-1 on the season so far. And you're going to note pretty quickly that BLG's statistics are just generally better. 1836 to 1748 in gold per minute, plus 33 to minus 62 in gold differential. First blood to BLG, advantage first turret to Rare Atom. Slightly better dragon percentage for BLG, and at 15 minutes, it's about an 1100 gold difference to BLG. So it's just all coming up BLG. Let's look real quick and see how we feel about the matchups that these teams have played so far. So BLG, we see E-Star, JDG, and Victory 5. So that's a reasonably strong set of matches. Victory 5 seems like they're going to be pretty solid. JDG, one of the better teams in the league. E-Star has overperformed a little bit, even if I don't think they're great. So not the best, not the worst. What about Rare Atom? We know they played Top Esports. They also played Sunning. So that's two pretty tough matchups to start the year for E-Star. And now they come up against BLG. So BLG is probably their easiest match of the season so far. I think you can step up their average metrics, given that they're playing against the worst team that they've played against so far. And as far as for BLG, I think this is probably the second or third best team that they've played against. So honestly, their metrics probably feel like they're going to be about right. Excuse me. So I think you can give the statistics for Rare Atom a bit of a bump. You can leave BLG's about the same, I think. That says advantage BLG to me, even at 1-2 on the season so far. I don't think losing to JDG is anything against them. Losing to Victory 5 is a little bit rough. But I don't know. I feel like this is advantage BLG in this matchup when it comes to just statistically, and given their previous histories. A lot of people talk to me about really looking at some of the additional stats. So let's look at some kill participation stats, because we're looking at a matchup here where they're averaging 18.6 kills per win, and Rare Atom's averaging 18 deaths per loss. So if we want to play BLG, they're looking like they're a pretty high-scoring team. On the other side, for Rare Atom, their kill per win hasn't been great so far, but BLG does have a huge death per loss. So probably either side of this matchup is going to be extremely DFS playable today. So let's look at a little kill participation. Let's just look at the league as a whole, but we'll take note of the teams that we're going to see today. EDG and JDG are the other two from the LPL. So this is kill participation. This is top laners only. And the players that we're going to see today, BuBu, right up there in third place, third highest kill participation in the league for top laners. Relevant. Flandre, 58.3, sitting right here. Zoom is all the way down at 49.7, which is lower than I would expect. I think that might come back up towards the medium a little bit. Oh. Excuse me, guys. Just a little bit of an issue here. Okay. Cube, 75.1. Great season so far for Cube. Looking at the overall standings for the league, we talked about it here, but Rare Atom sitting right in the middle here. Up here, Aches not playing today. We're going to see Layan instead. But it's worth noting that the top lane in this matchup is just really, really good. BuBu and Cube have played the vast majority of what's been happening has been BuBu and Cube, and they're top 3 in the league on both sides. So definitely going to want to be involved one way or another with those two guys. The top lane, more so than most matchups, I think you're going to want to be involved there. Sorry, I'm kind of losing I lost my train of thought for just a minute there, and I'm just trying to regroup for a minute here. Going into the jungle, so we're looking for this matchup, we're looking for Meteor, who's at 58.3. Leon has not played yet because he was suspended. So we're going to be looking at Aches, and Aches has been doing, let's see, actually Meteor way lower. I didn't have it sorted properly. Meteor third from the bottom, Aches about in the middle of the table, a little bit above. But we don't really know what it'll look like with Leon. For me, I think Leon is going to be a little bit lower percentage than Aches. But we're not looking at anything super exciting here. The top lane was much more exciting as far as like really want to be involved. Meteor is really, really low, which is surprising because historically he's been a pretty high kill participation jungler. If we go over to the mid lane, Zika, bottom half of the league in kill participation. Not insanely surprising there. Zika was very low kill participation on his last team as well, so we're not super surprised to see that. With Rare Atom, 78.3, pretty good. So looking towards the mid lane, that's maybe somewhere that you want to be looking towards more for Rare Atom. A lot of action coming out of the mid lane for them. Going down to 80 carries. Ooh. There we go. Going down to 80 carries, aiming with 52%. Like, that is awful. The kill participation on BLG just super terrible, even though the kill per win is very high. Rare Atom looking for iBoy. He is also right down there near the bottom. So these are some of your lowest kill participation to 80 carries in the league. Funny when you look at it, it's Kellen and Sam D who are at the top actually of kill participations. These are the 80 carries that are kind of really getting involved. Hanfeng up there as well. Wink actually, that's a good number for Wink. And then Michi as well. Eric kind of expected. The worst in the league so far, Loken, not getting involved in the kills for JDG. These are a little bit behind. Like Loken's is only through 3 games, but just stats worth noting. And lastly, support. If we look at the kill participations, Hong 58.2%, not super exciting. Mark 56.6 or 56.4%, not super exciting there either. Looking at the other later matches like Lu Mao, up towards the upper middle of the league, and then for EDG it'd be Mako. Mako a little bit lower than that at 67.5. Reheal hasn't played much, but he's on the list. Teen and Sam D, very high kill participation. Chocho, when he played, very high kill participation. It's actually some names you wouldn't expect to see. Cold, Chance, Chocho, El Wandi coming in there in 6th. So kind of the names that you would think are not really up there. Then you start seeing the names you would think of: Bao Lan, Lu Mao, Ming, Xiaoxi, Crisp, Mako, even PP God all the way down here at 67, missing. A lot of the guys that we would consider the best supports in the league, kind of middle to lower middle of the table, and then got the guys doing the worst so far on Mark and Shuo, who people had a lot of hope for coming into this season. Has not been a great fantasy asset so far. But I just thought we'd run through that real quick and just look over some various kill participations for some of the teams on this slate. It seems like the top lane is really BLG, Rare Atom. The top laners really like to get involved. So these are some teams where if you're going to stack 4 BLG, maybe you want to put the top lane in there. As far as the matchup, I think it honestly should be a little bit closer to even money. BLG's stats coming off pretty well. Rare Atom has had some pretty tough matchups, but I haven't think they've really looked impressive in those matchups either. So I think this could go either way. Both teams are going to be pretty DFS playable. We did see that the kill participations are not great, but both teams pretty DFS playable. Second matchup of the day, EDG plus 110, JDG minus 150. EDG 3-0 on the season so far, JDG's 1-1. The stats lean EDG here. Let's see what the matchups have looked like for these teams, because I think that's relevant. Then we'll go over the individual stats. But EDG, they've played against FPX, LGD, and OMG. So 2 of the worst teams in the league, and then FPX. So maybe a little bit overrated on some of the stats here. JDG, on the other hand, has played against BLG, IG. Those are 2 of the better teams in the league, BLG and IG. I mean, BLG, I think, is probably an 8th-ish place team, and IG is going to end up being top 6, I think. So maybe stats are a little bit underrated for JDG. They also played with ZA in the first series, and he was very bad, so I think that affects this thing as well. But again, I think we're seeing something that I really like, which is that I think this matchup is pretty close to even. I think maybe JDG might be a little overrated at minus 150. I was considering betting this at minus 150. The more I look at it, like with the stats, I think I'm not going to touch it at minus 150. I think it's a little bit closer to even than this. So this is another matchup where you're looking at a 15 to a 20 and a 22 to a 17, like pretty high kill per win, death per losses. The 15.1 kill per win's on the low side, but when they're up against a 20.5 death per loss, you can kind of figure that out. So these stats, I think you downgrade EDG a little bit, maybe you upgrade JDG a little bit, but they still look pretty close to even there. I'm leaning towards JDG winning this, but I think both sides of this are completely playable as well. The ownership in this matchup, I feel like, is going to be heavier than the ownership in this matchup, so I might lean more towards playing BLG or Rare Atom, especially as a heavier stack. But both sides completely playable again, which is what I really like to see. I don't really lean heavily. If I was going to lean slightly, it would be BLG in the first match and JDG in the second match, but they're very, very close. Looking at the LCK, and let's switch this over to the LCK and get a look at that as well while we're going through. We'll start in the top lane. So who's participating in kills in the LCK? Today we have HLE, KT Rolster, dRX, and Sandbox. Notables, I'll just go through notables actually, even if they're not necessarily on this slate. Notable pluses and minuses. So Keen from Afrika right up there at the top. Then you see Dudu. Khan, unsurprisingly with the way the Damwon plays, pretty close to the top. Summit from Sandbox there. And then Kingin comes in there at 60%. At the bottom of the league, Doran, Hoya, Rich, Morgan in particular, but Morgan hasn't been playing all the games, which is part of the reason why I didn't necessarily want to harp on him too much. Dudu has been much better when he's played, kill participation-wise. But look how close these are compared to the LPL. Like, this entire portion of the table is like a 2% gap between, say, Rich and Khan. And then you're seeing some kind of outliers in Keen and Dudu, and then at the bottom, Doran. But worth noting, a lot of these are kind of the same in the middle here. Going to the jungle, Canyon, 80%, not surprising to people. Umpty, though, 76.3%. Bonnie at 75%. Peanut at 70%. And then we kind of get that tight spot right here with Piosik, Blank, Dread, and Elam all between 66 and 70%, so right in there. But bottom of the league, Arthur and Clid are standing out. Clid at only 52% so far this season, and Arthur at 52% as well. So those are your standout negatives when you're playing teams that involve Arthur or Clid. Genji, if you play on them, maybe you miss Clid. In the mid lane, Showmaker, Damwon Gaming just showing out here in the kill participation. Chovy at the lowest kill participation, 54%. Fly towards the top, UCal towards the top, Fate towards the top. Bay, who we've talked about, is not having much of a season so far, pretty low. Lava pretty low. Can skip him if you're ever going to play a Fred Brion stack. And Solka for dRX, not great, 65%, just slightly below average. 80 carries. Henna actually in first place, surprisingly. Gumayusi in second. That doesn't surprise me. Gumayusi has been a monster. Ghost down in third. So you'll notice the Damwon guys are pretty much in first. Khan is a little bit lower, and then Ghost has been a little bit lower. So Showmaker and Canyon are really the duo that you want to make sure you're involved with. Bang, Bow for dRX there. At the bottom of the list, Deft. So Deft and Chovy, both bottom of the kill participation list for their team here. It's kind of interesting. Considering that the team has been pretty bloody so far this season, to see their two best players be bottom of the league in kill participation. Leo and Hybrid coming in at the bottom of that list as well. We go over to support. Where's Vista going to be? That's what I'm interested in. Dead last in the league. So HLE's kill participation just not good no matter who you're looking at, pretty much. Lehen's bottom of the league. Life looking at the bottom. At the top, Delight. Yeah. Becca for dRX. Kellen, Zeus, Barrel coming in at 5th. So really, it's that Canyon Showmaker show for Damwon Gaming. But just to look at those real quick, I just thought I'd throw those out there. People told me that they liked the other segment where I talked about that a little bit. And so this one, I didn't want to make a specific point this time. I just kind of wanted to go over a quick list of, so far, who's participating in kills heavily. But then when we look at who these teams have played, the first matchup's HLE minus 225 up against KT Rolster plus 160. HLE, they are 1-1 on the season. KT is also 1-1. HLE has played against Dragon X and T1, so pretty tough schedule given that Dragon X has looked pretty good so far this year. KT Rolster, on the other hand, has played against Gen G and Sandbox. I think Gen G's on the same tier level as T1. This is Nongshim Red Force, I'm sorry. And Nongshim. Nongshim. Oh, wait. Yeah, they played against Sandbox. My fault, guys. I'm a little scattered at the moment. Sandbox and dRX have felt about the same level, so I don't know. Pretty comparative competition so far, I think, really. So let's look at just the numbers. HLE at 1804 to KT's 1830. Goal differential per minute, HLE negative 27 to KT's plus 5. First blood, first turret, both teams very bad. Highest number among the four is 33%, not good. HLE does have 63% Dragon to 23% for KT. And at 15 minutes, they're both just slightly behind. So very similar stats for these two teams. It definitely feels like you could play either side of this matchup. Another reason why, like I said, I think this is a pretty good slate. There's a lot of different angles that you can take. KT or HLE, look at these. The numbers are higher than you would expect from the LCK as well. 20.3 for HLE, 21 death per loss for KT. That said, we just saw that on average, HLE's like best players and even their support are averaging like 50% kill participation. So even if this is correct and you expect to see 20 kills from HLE in this game, you're only getting 10 KP from your guys. You know, say 5, 2, and 5. So then you'd be looking at like 23, 28, 29 points. It's not bad, but it's not really exciting, to be honest. On the other KT side, 17 kill per win, 16.6 death per loss. So that's pretty good, and they had some pretty high kill participation guys on their team. So you could be getting 17, 18 kills and having your guys participate in 13 or 14 kills in a game like this. Both sides of this matchup feel very playable to me. I'm just a fan of this slate in general because I think there's a lot of different ways you can go depending on how you feel about their previous matchups or various different stats with the team. I do think HLE has a pretty big advantage in the mid lane against almost every team that they play against. Elsewhere, maybe not so much. So another interesting matchup with very close stats. The last match of the day, dRX at minus 125, Liiv Sandbox at minus 110. dRX 2-1 on the season, and they've played against Afrika, Hanwha, and Nongshim. So no bad teams there, really. All kind of middle of the table-ish teams, I think. Sandbox, on the other hand, they're 1-2, having played against Afrika, KT, Nongshim. So very, very similar again with the teams they've played against. They played against KT instead of playing against HLE. Very similar, so I think the stats should be comparable. dRX 1756 to 1775. dRX has minus 53 goal differential per minute to plus 10 for Sandbox. Sandbox with the advantage in first blood, first turret, dragon percentage. At 15 minutes, they're significantly better off than dRX. This is the first match where I start to feel like Sandbox should be a reasonable favorite. I already bet Sandbox when this was even money. And when you look at the 20.3 kill per win to 21 deaths per loss for dRX, I think I kind of like playing Sandbox in some lineups. Now, don't get me wrong, I think dRX is maybe a little playable, but look at the numbers when it comes to that. Sandbox is a team that's been really variant so far as how many kills they get when they win versus the deaths they give up when they lose. It's a pretty high level of variance. So with dRX also doing that, but the other way around, you have a very low kill per win for dRX, a very low death per loss for Sandbox. What hurts me with Sandbox here that makes it so I'm not just going to slam Sandbox in lineups is that I could definitely see this being a 3-game series. And given how Sandbox plays from behind, if they get behind in any of these games, they could easily lose like a 10-1 game. That's like the kind of game that Sandbox is giving up so far this year. I'm a little bit hesitant on Sandbox. This is just a very, very interesting slate, I think. If we looked at ownership, it's really tough. I think the lowest owned team is probably KT Rolster. Whoa. Sandbox might be down there with them. Yeah, I think it's probably going to be Sandbox down there. Then I'm guessing you're going to see BLG maybe. BLG actually might be higher than HLE. I think maybe I'm going to take a random guess and say that it might be more like this. dRX, people seem pretty happy with right now, so I'm going to put their ownership reasonably high. And then I think EDG, JDG, and Rare Atom are going to be your most owned teams. And I'm guessing that Rare Atom is going to be up there at the top. It's possible one of these two teams passes them, but I think you're going to see Rare Atom highest owned, which makes BLG just a super good play. It's all possible BLG could go above like dRX, and we might just see the 4 LPL teams up here. I think Sandbox and KT are almost certainly going to be the lowest. But this slate is just wide open. You can play Sandbox, you can play all 8 of these teams extremely viably. And it just matters how you felt about the season so far, how you feel about the various matchups in the games. I just want to say I'm trying to move as much as I can away from, and in previous seasons I think I've talked about this before, I try to move away from the idea of telling you who you should play. Like, I don't want you to watch my video and I just go, man, play BLG and JDG, it's crush, like they're gonna smash. I think it's better to give an examples of what value the teams hold, regardless of who they are. And honestly, every team on this slate feels like they have high value to me. For KT and Sandbox, you're going to get extremely low ownership, and the matches do have some upside, bloodiness-wise. For HLE, if they're going to be this low-owned, they have extremely high upside from the numbers we've seen so far this season. They might have the lowest upside on the slate, but they still have some upside. I think BLG ownership and chance to win-wise is being underrated right now. I think dRX is probably overrated, so maybe dRX is a team I might try to stay away from at the moment. And then EDG, JDG just feels like you can pick a side in that matchup. It's probably going to be a decent amount of kills. Those teams team fight well enough to make the games go long and have a lot of drawn-out team fights. Rare Atom is another team that I think, for me personally, I think probably is going to be over-owned relative to their value. I think I'd rather be on JDG, EDG than Rare Atom if I was only choosing one. I'd rather be on JDG than Rare Atom or EDG than Rare Atom because I think you're going to get better ownership, and I kind of like BLG to win the matchup anyway. So that's just a guess on ownerships for today, but this is a very tough slate to do ownerships because I don't think there's anything that's clear about what's going on in this slate. This is one of the slates where I could just be completely wrong because I think there's a lot of viable options on this slate. Let's quickly take a look at the favorites. So it's going to be Hanwha, DragonX, JDG, and Rare Atom. And we'll go starting with the top lane. We're looking at Cube, then Zoom, so Rare Atom, then JDG, HLE in third, DragonX way down in last, and that is, I have never seen a projection that low. It almost makes me wonder how it's possible. What are their average fantasy scores so far this year? With supports, I can kind of understand it, but their scores, 63 in mid is crazy low. Piosik at 50 is oh. That makes a lot of sense, guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. It makes a lot of sense. That apparently I did not properly upload. So you guys can just watch me upload them. And then we can have another look. Because I was like, some of these numbers don't look correct to me. They look a little bizarre. So let's try this. It's funny, I mean, I have to do this for a little while. You can kind of tell just by quick looking. I was about to go double check. I was about to stop the video and go double check on these DragonX projections because they just look way too low. I could see 70s maybe, but those 50s are looking way too low for DragonX. So let's just do a quick refresh. But hey, at least now you guys know that I can recognize that off the top of my head. And we want to see the favorites, so HLE, DragonX, JDG, and Rare Atom. This looks a little bit better. So HLE actually at the top, JDG in second, DragonX, Rare Atom in third. In the jungle, Kanavi coming up first, HLE in second, so HLE projecting pretty well actually. Rare Atom right there at the bottom. In mid lane, Yagao, Fofo, Chovy in third, Solka in last. It doesn't surprise me that DragonX is mostly coming up last. JDG generally coming up first, followed by HLE. So JDG and HLE both feel like teams that might be underrated today. If I think that Rare Atom is going to be pretty highly owned, the only thing that could take away from Rare Atom being so highly owned is that BLG probably is going to steal some ownership away. And so I could definitely see me being wrong and seeing JDG as the top owned team on the slate, which wouldn't be that surprising either. The thing with JDG is the only reason I don't think they're going to be the highest owned on the slate is because EDG I think is going to take away a lot of their ownership. And I don't think people are rushing to play Dragon X and Sandbox or HLE and KT. So it just feels like just barely Rare Atom might edge it. But given what we're looking at here, yeah, I mean, you kind of want to stay away from Rare Atom if you think they're going to be anywhere near the top of the ownerships. If they're not going to be anywhere near the top of the ownerships, if they're going to be third or fourth, then these projections are fine, especially with a degree of uncertainty. It's not like these projections are going to be 100% exactly what they're going to score if they win. So good estimate, but I mean, we can easily be off by 5 points, and if we're off by 5 points, then they're top of almost every position. So just interesting there. When you're looking at potential teams to play for cash, it's a little bit tough. HLE jumps off the page, is like almost a must play. And then you can go Rare Atom. For me, I think JDG is a slightly larger favorite. So I think for me, let's see the different options we could go with. I think HLE's must. I think you're playing HLE. HLE and Rare Atom. You're looking at a 580.7. And when I say that, I don't want people to get me wrong. It's not because HLE is like guaranteed to smash. I think KT's like very live to win this, but I think all the underdogs are pretty live to win their matches today. So you have to find the one that you're most confident about of the ones that you don't have that much confidence in, and this just feels the best. HLE JDG with the higher ceiling as well, 625.3. What happens if you're willing to fade HLE and just go with Rare Atom and JDG? That's a 590.8. So for me personally, the standout is HLE JDG. I think I'm just going to go that way and not worry about it too much. If you had a problem with either of those two teams, here's some other ways you can go about it. You can go HLE RA or RA JDG. But this is just a great slate, man. Just play this slate. There's just so many different places that people can go. The ownership's going to be super split. Plant your flag on a slate like this, in my opinion. Plant your flag on a team or two. Say, I think JDG's getting there today. I'm for on JDG, and then mix it up a little bit with some other teams because I think your ownership on JDG is going to be good enough with any team that you choose. It doesn't even matter what team on the slate you choose. I think the ownership you're going to get is going to be good enough to give you some real value, like planting your flag on literally any team on the slate. So my example for this, or my advice for this slate, don't hedge. Plant your flag on somebody. Get in heavy with whatever team you have faith in. Mix up some pairings. And good luck to us. I don't know which team. I haven't made any lineups for this slate yet. I'm not sure where my flag's getting planted. It might be BLG, might be JDG, could be Liiv Sandbox, might even be HLE. But I think I'll end up planting a flag for sure on this slate. So thank you very much, guys. It was a little hectic today. My brain's a little wacky today. But glad we got everything out there that we needed to get out there. Hopefully it was at least mildly interesting and useful. Come back with a better video tomorrow when my brain is making a little bit more sense to me. But I appreciate you guys, and let's plant our flags tonight and get lucky. I'll talk to you guys later.